Hi you guys, so these are the tips I learned from my local farmers at the farmers market today. This is my haul. The first thing is I try not to waste things. When I'm going there and spending top dollar, which I will totally do on food, I don't want it to go to waste. And we waste a lot anyway. And so speaking of waste, I was talking to Farmer Kevin, who came and did our Be the Change Challenge class, and he said, see those big beautiful yellow onions? He said people will buy these and actually before they leave my booth ask me to lop that whole part off. And oh, that's so sad because these are chives, you guys. Anything that's onion flavor like chives, Asian dishes, potato salad, egg dishes. Chives are great in all those things. But that's a lot of chives to get. That's a ton of chives. So I don't want to just compost that away. So what I'm going to do with these chives are two things. I am going to throw them in the back in the sunroom and dry them out. So whenever I'm making a dish that requires chives over this next week or so, I'll cut some extra, throw them on a plate and just throw them in the back room. In my sunroom, I let them dry out for about 3 or 4 days or so, and then put them in a jar and save them for the winter time. It's just called my winter jar from all the summer delicious herbs that I had and saved for the winter season. And the other thing I'm going to do is put them in a broth with, I'm going to make a chive and shiitake mushroom broth. See that part of the stem part of that mushroom? That is a lot of that mushroom. And normally I lop them off and throw them away. I was cooking them for a while, but quite frankly, they're chewy and I don't really like the texture of it. And so I asked the mushroom guy at the market today, what do I do with those? And he said you can make broth with them, or you could also dry them out like you're going to dry your chives out and turn them into like a mushroom powder. See? And then they'll last you for a long time and you're not throwing out the stems. Or you can compost them. So you don't have to throw them in the garbage. The other cool thing I learned about mushrooms are these are king mushrooms, and you can see compared to my finger like how big that is. And I said, ooh, what are those? How do I cook them? What do we do with them? And he said, you can treat them like scallops. And you cut them in the size, about the same size as scallops are. And then you cook them in any dish that you would put scallops in. And the cool thing about these is they tend to take on, these king mushrooms, the flavors of all the spices and the herbs and the stuff that you put in the dish with them. So they will take on those flavors beautifully. It'll get absorbed in them. So great alternative to scallops. And then the other thing I was asking him about that dish was, well, how long do I cook it for? And he said, oh, maybe around 10 minutes, just depending on what you're doing. But he said, but you really can't overcook mushrooms. And then he talked about a documentary where they cooked mushrooms and meat, and they just kept cooking and cooking and cooking. And he said the meat eventually just broke down, but the mushrooms really didn't. And so that's kind of cool. Now, I don't really know how true that is, but this is the cool thing about the Be the Change Challenge class. I do know from cooking mushrooms that they never do seem to get overcooked. They're always just so delicious. And the thing about mushrooms are also cool, good things in them. Vitamin B, vitamin D, minerals, riboflavin, potassium, and apparently this is a cool thing. Farmer Kevin takes his shiitake mushrooms, dries them up, and turns it into a powder and puts them in some capsules for his dad because he learned somewhere that they lower blood pressure. So, okay, so one of the last tips was strawberries. Oh my gosh, those are so delicious. You could probably almost smell them. Farmer Kevin was saying if your birds are eating them, plant them super close together, and then the leaves that grow up will produce this beautiful canvas that will protect them from the birds coming down and seeing them and eating them all. So it was a great day at the farmer's market. Namaste. Oh, and another thing about mushrooms, I was watching a TED Talks on depression, and they were actually clinically using a magic psilocybin mushrooms and having profound effects on PTSD and depression. So Maybe mushrooms were put on this earth for a reason.